98, John was one of my teachers that taught me English. So I tried to visit John in his house, and this little girl was that much, but she's not sorry to be restored. But you know, really, it's a pleasure being here. I was in the same position like you guys, with so many challenges that each and every one of you would have faced or may be facing. I came as a young person by myself. That itself was a challenge, and I know some of you here came here with with families and young people. As you go home, you know, every day, children go to school, they come out differently. They come out, they're more, you know, they express themselves more. They talk a lot faster than you are. They speak English faster than you are. You know, it creates a bit of conflicts in the family. And these are the things that we're dealing with. I worked with Families SA for quite some time now. I started with Families SA in 2009. Families SA is a government agency that responds in child protection, or the agency that work with families in order for families to care for the children. And with me here is Anne. Anne is a master's student from Flinders University. She's studying to be a social worker. She's doing her master's degree. Okay. Hello, everyone. So basically, we're going to talk about child protection and also the role of Families SA, or when Families SA visit you, discipline and setting boundaries with children, and setting limits and behavior. You know, because I thought that those are very important things. You know, people come to this country, like including myself, to settle. But if you started having issues with your family, children are not listening, or the expectations that you set in your life or for your children are not, you feel like if they're not being met, mostly it creates conflict with families, it creates conflict within the families, and even the long-term impact of it is it will affect your successful settlement in this country. So when we talk about child protection, child protection is really, it's derived from United Nations Convention for Right of Child. So every country in the world, I think, exception of Somalia, has signed for, you know, this UN charter that children are meant to be careful, look after, and their rights are respected. When you come to Australia or other Western society, this is taken really serious, and it's a very serious thing. In South Australia, Child Protection Act of 1993, it is a legislation requirement that people use. It is to ensure that children are kept safe from harm, and that children are given optimal outcome in their life, that they are cared for by their parents. So the legislation that governs child protection is in South Australia is Child Protection Act of 1993. So I'm going to explain to you the structure of family, but I think this is going to take long. But what I'll just say is that Families SA is a government department. Of course, it sits under the Premier and then various departments. Now we are part of the Department of Education. So you can see from the presentation up there. And Families SA has about different 8 district offices. So you'll find in the West, North, South, and other areas, they have different hubs. So those are the areas where Families SA offices are. Like I say, Families SA objective to protect children from harm. And also not only that, also to support families. To care for the children, and also it provides foster care arrangement. I'm going to explain that further. Provide foster care because Families SA sometimes at a certain age, stage where they will be forced to remove children from the parents. But this is very rare. It doesn't, it occurs when the families are not able to really care for the children for the reasons maybe they have mental health problems, or could be severe alcohol issues, or could be a very severe domestic violence. But initially, before doing that, the family SA will really work with the family to make sure the capacity of the families are lifted and the family understand exactly what they require. First, families SA receive information from families. They receive information from communities. Have any of you tried to, let's say example, if you try to apply for a job, or they do some screening on you, or sometimes they ask you to do child safe environment training. Did anybody hear about that? Child safe environment training? Yeah. Everybody that you're going to work, you need to have that, because then you become mandatory notifier. That means that if you're going to work with a government company or anywhere else, if you see a child or anything unusual, you have the responsibility to notify, which means you have to call child abuse report line. You have to say, look, I've seen ABC with a child, maybe you suspect a child is not safe. Families receive information, like I said, from the community. It can be from a doctor, it could be from the police, it could be from teachers, it could be from anybody. So those information goes to child abuse report line, and where they can rate them from tier 1 up to 2, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 is very, very urgent, very important, whereby they have to respond immediately. Maybe they can come to your house or send somebody. Tier 2 is maybe the incident is just somewhere in the middle, maybe where a child is hit, where there's a marks on the child, and it's not immediate danger. And then after 2-3 days, but they have to be followed. Family SA has to make sure they address that issue. And then tier 3 is where they can just give you a call, say, you know what, your child last time reported something like this. We saw the child is not feeling very well, or the child is upset. And then, can you please make sure, you pay close attention to this child? And then it will end up like that. But sometimes if you still want them, it requires an investigation where the family says it has to come to your house to ask you some questions, what's really happening. Could be maybe an issue with domestic violence in the house, because that's also not acceptable. When parents fight in front of children, they'll just try to find out what the problem is. And in the process, they'll also support the family. Support family, making sure that whoever is responsible for disciplining that child or physically is also a person, or maybe educated, or maybe referred to services where they can do things differently. And also and then we come to a stage where foster care placement. This is where the families are difficult to engage, or maybe this is mostly in a severe situation. Maybe there's alcohol affected. They're not able to, in any way possible, able to look after the children. Then our child, then families will say, okay, we have to remove this child, keep them somewhere for a period, maybe 12 months, while you address your issues. But they're not going to leave you alone. They'll get you maybe, if it's a mental health issue, then make sure that you get all the support that you need to bring your level up to where you can understand the issues, and then eventually maybe the child is referred back. When it comes to the migrant communities, like now, myself, our role, we tend to really advocate for these families to place the children within the community of these children, because it's important. It's important. If one person is able to look after the child, maybe put it within the community, because that's appropriate with some of the cultures that people are coming with. Some of the people come from a culture where people as a community sit down and resolve their issues. If you take this child without really consulting those communities, without knowing people in that community, then you're not doing a good job. You're actually putting the child at risk. So it's important to put the children within their own community, within their own people. So that's why we always come around and give that advice. Yeah. And also, after 12 months, they say, and then your unification is done. But before the 12 months, there are 2 orders. The 12 months is, if that is successful, then the child will be returned back. But if after 12 months, if they, like if you are not addressing your problem, if you keep on drinking, for example, I'll just give you an example of drinking, maybe that's the easier way. If you still keep on drinking, after 12 months, you're drinking and they try so many times, they will probably remove this child, then it's going to go 18. That would mean the child will go under the guardianship of the minister until they're 18 years old. So the child will be definitely removed from you indefinitely until they're 18 years old. Then where they are able to make their own decision, then you can have the child back. Or they will make the decision whether they want to come back and live with you or not. Like I say, intensive parenting support for families without sending child abuse cases. Also referral to agencies. And then that's when you can be referred to agency. If it's a marriage problem, you have constant fighting each other, then the child, you'll be referred to services so you can get their services to be able to resolve your issues. Yeah, child protection can be defined as follows: physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. These are all fall in the context of child protection. Of course, physical, you can read from there. Physical abuse, of course, means hitting, beating, kicking, all this things. Believe me, some families do that. Sometimes injuries on children to the extent where they inflict injury on the children, and domestic violence. Domestic violence can be also very, very severe one. A lot of people think domestic violence does not occur. Domestic violence actually does affect children very much because, in my experience, every time we go to families and we say, did you fight in front of the children? They say, no, we were in the room. The children didn't see us. But what that does is, children always hear. In your room, they hear. That actually most, because then you as a parent sometimes when you fight, you can go and discuss this with your friends. You talk to your friends about it. But children mostly, they retain that inside. They hear you fight. They cannot make any sense of it. They keep that inside. You find that this mostly comes out in school. They will be very aggressive to their peers. They will be very angry. Their self-esteem will go down. So we don't see the implication of this until. So domestic violence is one of the very serious incidents where families takes it very seriously. And also dangerous behavior involving, even sometimes if you are drunk, you see people get really drunk and drive with their children in the car. That for me, that's one of the dangerous behavior. And also leaving children at a young age in the house, whereby maybe in the countries or the communities where you come from, there will be extended family that you can leave children with, they'll be fine. But here there's so many hazards that we don't see. You sometimes electric cooker, gas, any of those things. You might be aware, and then you set a fire, there's in case of fire, then the children will be left in a harm's way. I'll give you an example. Mostly it's good that I like to give an example. One of the families that we visited for one time was those 10-year-old in the house, and then this 5 and 3-year-old. And their mother left them. She came to Central Market to buy stuff because the 10-year-old is in the house. No matter where they come from, that is fine. Maybe the neighbors will come to their aid. But what happened then? There was a fire at the neighbor's house. When that fire broke out, the fire brigade came and they were evacuating everybody around there. But nobody's coming from that house. But they could see that there are people in there. When they broke in there, they found young children in there. And that is part of those dangerous behavior. And the family they were in trouble. But then I have to come and explain the perspective where they're coming from. It is not something deliberately or it's a neglect, but that is a perception. Maybe they say maybe the 10 or 11-year-old girl could look after the children. Probably it's fine where they're coming from, but here, just because there's so many hazards, there's so many things that you never know that will come their way. And also, some people give their children, I mean, accidentally. If you drink sometimes alcohol or somewhere, you have to be very careful, because sometimes children are curious, they might just pick it and drink, you know. That could be very dangerous. Also, even prescription drugs. Sometimes to leave drugs lying around is very dangerous. It's always good to keep them out far away. Yeah. Neglect is part of really like not taking to the doctor's appointments, not feeding them properly. I've seen some people, they just say, oh, well, the child had we took them to the doctors last time, and, you know, like not being very serious sometimes with your, you know, not serious, but I would say maybe complacent. You know, you take it easy until a child is really ill, then you can take it to the doctor. Some people don't follow doctor's appointment as well. They set up the appointment, they keep on missing the appointment, they think, and then they also self-diagnose. They say, you know, last time, you know, this child is always like that. He has fevers, but you know, you'll be okay. You know, so it's important to follow medical rules. And I've seen families also giving another child's medication, or maybe the older brothers, or you know, instead of them, they just share the same medication. I don't know, that's because they just don't want to go to the doctor, or because their life get really busy here. Of course, you know, people are really busy here. And also, not taking your child to school is an offense in South Australia. You know, every child is entitled to go to attend school. And make sure children attend school. Children are afforded adequate basic care. Failure to protect others. Yeah, the same thing like the domestic violence, which I spoke with earlier on. Unfortunately, sometimes I find it very hard to talk about sexual abuse with communities or color communities or the refugees, because I always think, oh, maybe this thing is not really happening in their cultures. But my 7 years in working with families SA now, I was such a surprise how this thing does exist. So this is sometimes, you know, having sex with a child or somebody over underage. If you have sexual intercourse with underage, or not only sexual, but also suggesting putting children to watch certain movies, you know, for me that is also really wrong. And also watching, I've seen some families have TVs put in the children's rooms. I mean, this is not here, but this is my own personal opinion, is that sometimes children are very hard to control what they can watch. If you put a TV in a child's room, do you think the child will watch the TV and say, okay, it's 8 o'clock now, it's time for me to go to sleep? They will not. They will watch until, and then because their TVs here, they are rated, they are rated, there's M, the PG, and all those programs, even in TV. Sometimes it's important for us to keep our children very close to see what we're watching. There's so many things here that children can be exposed to. And more important one is internet. This is also through experience. Sometimes if you leave the children to use the internet so much, you don't know who they're meeting on the line. They could meet really wrong people. I've seen a 14-year-old that had some argument with the parents and decided to just withdraw. And she just stays because she's angry with mom and dad, she just stays in a room. And if the father comes in, she said, I'm doing my assignment. But in reality, she met somebody who is constantly talking to her. And he reached to a point where they'll say, can you describe what you're wearing for me? Can you do, you know? So slowly, it went to the stage where the brother noticed that. But when the computer was taken to the police, they traced this person. It was actually a 65-year-old man in Sydney who is talking to this young girl. And this innocent girl thinks this is a 14-year-old boy that she's talking to. So let's also be very careful how we allow our children to use internet. They can use internet, but you have to be very watchful over them and control what they do this is very hard with the mobile phones and things, but you know, as parents, we need to take that responsibility, the duty. Yeah, like I said, this is the domestic violence. Impact of domestic violence can be very, very serious with young people. Like I said, you know, it reduces the self-esteem. You know, sometimes to extent they begin to bedwetting. Also decreases their ability to concentrate at school, that I mentioned earlier on. And becomes difficult to manage their emotions because they have so many things that they're thinking about. You know, why are my parents fighting, or why am I this? You know, why all that? You know, so it's really important. And also, there's a research done that if young boys are exposed to domestic violence, 30% of them, when they grow up, they actually will try to do the same thing to their partners. So, of course, discipline, you know, only is in teaching, but there are various ways of how to discipline children. I had an African family that told me, you know, I had a very intense discussion with them. Say, you yourself, when you're growing up, you'll be beaten up, you'll be physically disciplined. So why are you telling us now that we should be disciplining our children? You're removing our powers away, you know, because then the children can do whatever they want. You know, then my response to that is that in Australian society where we live, everybody is treated equally. The children are taught not to hit anybody and not to be hit, and the children are taught to express themselves, to be very vocal, you know, to be very assertive, and say what they like or what they don't like. At the same time, if a child grows up with that self-confidence, it's important because they'll be able to sell themselves and really be very strong in how they communicate with people. And then, where in Africa, where I grew up, and some of these parents are coming from this particular family that I talked to them about, they say, well, we should discipline them, and nothing, they're not traumatized, nothing happened to them. Yeah, that's right, because everybody is doing the same thing. Everybody is different, that is a norm. So when the children are growing up with it, they don't feel it's something different. But here, if they go to school, they see their friends are not getting hit. Or the children, their friends, the teachers are saying it's wrong. But when you come home, and that happens to you, then you send a message that there's something wrong. You know, constantly, so it affects them. So what a society does influence, also impact on the family. So it's important that, you know, the biggest fear is that a lot of parents think, you know, the children are going out there, they're going to lose their cultures, but the culture cannot be lost because the society itself will always remind them who they are. So I think it's important that physical discipline in Australia does have negative effect on the children. So, and also at the same time, it causes, it puts the parents in a very difficult situation. You know, by slapping one child or by, you know, accidentally you might hurt them, and then or eventually you get yourself a criminal record, whereby your settlement here will be affected because you're not going to be able to get a job, you know, because you have to go to police clearance. Chances are you're going to fail your police clearance, you know, and that is going to cause you a lot more implication. I think it's not worth putting yourself in that risk. Later on, I'm going to probably just talk about ways of how to prevent that from happening. Yeah, mostly I just put people through this discussion when you're in a smaller group, but this is a big group, so we're not going to do that. Another thing, mostly if I visit family, I mostly tell them this, you know, just spend more time and effort to build positive thing with your children, because that is how it is in school. They're being taught, like I said before, you know, of how to avoid conflicts, how to express themselves, you know. Also reinforce good behavior. If they did something good, please do tell them. Do tell them, you know, this is really good. And by telling them that, it decreases their bad behavior. because you put them in sport. And then the same thing at school, they did the same, the same thing being done. If they've done something wrong, they'll be put sometimes at the corner, they're going to miss out with certain things, certain activities. That itself will encourage them to do the right thing. One thing that I think is very, very important is parents who, if you are facing difficulties, please do not hold back. These children go to school every day. If their behavior is misbehaving at home, chances are they'll be misbehaving at school as well. So work closer with school, and then the closer you work with school, the easier it will be. You understand how your child is doing. The reason I'm saying that is because the education system in Australia is completely different from our majority. Look, I'm from Sudan. I know I visited Egypt, some other part of the Middle East. I know that in Middle East and some part of Africa, teachers are the most important people in children's life. The teachers actually provide discipline to students at school. What parents does is they just send their children to school and they get everything there, discipline, academic, and everything. But the reverse side of it is in Australia, you find that a student, a teacher, and a parent are all involved in providing education. Now, if your parents, as a parent, if you can't speak English or you struggle and your children pick up very quickly, you find that this is going to affect how the children, relate to you, and at the same time also how they're going to perform in the education. So it's important to work closely with school. Do not teachers parents meeting, attend. If the child they have sporting activities, please do attend, because I know that we are very busy. We're trying to make life here. We try to make connections, we try to make a lot of things. There are so many things that we struggle with, but at least the priority we need to do is put with our children. Very important. You spend time together, yeah? Keep talking. Children, sometimes you talk, you just finish talking to them, they go and do the opposite. But please don't lose your cool. That's what they say here. Don't lose your cool but just keep on talking to them. Yeah, engage when it's difficult. Engage in difficult times, difficult topics. Talk to them about it, and celebrate those good days. If they've done something really good and worth mentioning, yes, talk to them about it, because that will build your rapport. It will build positive relationship at home. Yeah. Yeah. So I think I was just gonna go. That is, I'll just put that there. Just tell them that you're very proud of them. Yeah, I think with that, really, it does reduce a lot of tension within the family's settings. I have with me here, I have this very fact sheet that we produce in families called What is Child Protection, or when families SA visit you. I'll give this to John. John probably will photocopy some of them, just to give you a rough idea of what I've just talked about here. The various definition of the abuse, and physical abuse, emotional abuse, and emotional abuse is the most really confused. Emotional abuse example I'll give you is, if you have two children example, and constantly if you tell the other one, say, what can you be like so and so? Every time you're failing, you're very useless. Why did I even bring you to Australia? You just, you're nobody. If you keep on saying that to this child, you find that they will start believing. They'll believing that they're stupid. They'll believe that they're not able to do things. You find eventually even their relationship with their siblings is going to be impact. So if we're praising the children, let's praise them all equally. If we doing everything to them, let's just do it equally to them. I think it's important. Yeah. And also, let's try to be the best role models, to our children. Sometimes, speaking very rudely, in front of children, or holding argument with other people in front of children, and not necessarily set a good example to our children. And I think that's part of the main issue.